Hi there folks, in this video we're going to have a benchtop review of some Chinese manufactured 5.56 ammunition. And as you can see, this is older stuff. This is manufactured in 1995. This was available on the market up here in Canada back in like 2013, 2014, and there was quite a large amount of it sold back in those days. And this stuff came originally in spam cans of 560 rounds per can, per metal can, and two of those in a wooden crate for 1,120 rounds per case. So you won't find this very often on the market anymore, but there's some still floating around out there. I got some recently at a gun show, a few boxes to try out. So we're going to have a look at this. Now this was manufactured by a company called Jinan Light Industries Corporation, and they are in the Shandong province of the People's Republic of China, in the city of Jinan. So don't know if they're still manufacturing ammunition or not, but anyway, they made this stuff. There's a variety of lot numbers out here. You can see that's lot number 20. We've got another box here, lot number 32. The markings on the back of the boxes seem to be all the same. Cartridges 5.56mm ball 08, People's Republic of China. I believe the ball 08 refers to the type of projectile, which is basically a 55 grain full metal jacket boat tail, kind of an equivalent to the US M193 style of cartridge. That's what it's kind of emulating. So this comes in a very plain, kind of a off-white paper box. Very little information on it other than the manufacturing date, December 95. Most of it seems to be in the November to December 95 production range. And like I said, a bunch of different lot numbers are on the market or have been on the market. So 20 rounds per box, and just a simple flap style box with a cardboard divider inside it. And the individual rounds are brass cased, as you can see here. And they are actually boxer primed. They use a standard size small rifle primer, and you can see the head stamp there. It is CJ95, and we have a jacketed bullet, full metal jacket bullet with a crimping canlure, and you can see the crimp applied there. One note of caution: some lots of this ammunition have been poorly crimped, and some people have had problems with the bullet being pushed back into the cartridge case because of the poor crimp. I have not seen that myself. I've seen a lot of this ammunition fired, several thousands of rounds of it between me and my friends over the years. I think I've known guys that have fired probably a total of 8,000 rounds of this stuff, and they haven't really had any significant problems with it. However, being Chinese and being from this time frame, quality control is not always the best on some of this stuff. So beware if you get a lot number which is different. I think lot number 17 was one that was noted for being poor in the crimping department. So have a look at the stuff before you load it and fire it, and if the crimping appears to be poor, you may need to re-crimp it before you use it. Probably not an issue if you're using it in a bolt action, because they're not their feeding is not abrupt enough to do to push the bullet back into the cartridge case. Anyway, we'll pull some of this stuff apart and we'll show you what's inside it, and I'll get that done and get right back to you. Alright, here's a cartridge broken down into its various components. We've got the cartridge case, of course, the powder, the primer, and the bullet, and we'll look at those individually. First off, we're going to look at the primer, and it's a very hard thing to show on camera, but as you can see, it's a fairly standard looking primer, three-legged anvil made of brass. This has been domed out a little bit when I pushed it out. They're a little flatter than this when you start, but a standard size primer. You can reload these cartridges with a standard small rifle primer. They fit and function quite well, so nothing really extraordinary there. These are, by the way, non-corrosive. I have lots of experience with this ammo, and I can attest that none of it has ever been corrosive. So for a change, you can actually believe the packaging when it says non-corrosive. The next item is the cartridge case, and like I said earlier, this is brass. You can see there's a little bit of a color change at the front of it where it was annealed, and you may be able to detect there's a little bit of asphalt left on the inside of this from the waterproofing. So this is kind of loaded to a military spec, and this is reloadable stuff, of course. And we have a single flash hole, so nothing really extraordinary about that. I can say though these cartridge cases weigh almost identically to what Winchester brass weighs. So this particular cartridge case was 95.3 grains. I weighed 10 Winchester and 10 of these, and they were almost identical in weight. So they're kind of a commercial cartridge case weight. Some military brass will weigh, 5 grains more than this. So if you're going to reload this, you don't have to really worry about using military load data for it. You can pretty much count on using commercial brass charges, because normally with military cases you have to reduce the load a little bit to accommodate for the heavier brass. This particular cartridge case has a pretty well centered flash hole. That is one failing with this brass. Quite often you will find them with the flash holes punched off center. Anyway, I'll show you that probably in a different video, but this particular one is pretty good, but some of them can be quite significantly off center. Oh, and also of note, there is no crimp on the primer pocket there, so the primers go in and out quite easily. It doesn't seem to cause any particular issues, but of note, it is not crimped in place, so if that bothers you, then there it is. Anyway, next item will be the powder, and it is a flattened ball powder, like a spherical powder, similar to an Olin or Winchester style of powder. And I've got a table, I measured that, I'll show you that later on, give you the average weights and so forth. And the final thing to look at is the projectile itself, and as you can see, it is a full metal jacket boat tail bullet. You can see that black on it, that is the asphalt sealant which was applied, and we have a crimp groove applied there. So we've got a boat tail which is perhaps not as well defined as an M193 type of projectile, but still approximates it pretty well. And a little bit of powder stuck to the base of this one. At any rate, it's a lead core bullet with a gilding metal jacket on it, so pretty standard all the way around. We'll get our calipers here and we'll measure the diameter of this stuff. And as you can see, we are at about 224 on this one. Of course, this one hasn't had the asphalt sealant cleaned off it, so it might be measuring a little bit bigger. Yeah, 223.5 thereabouts. But once again, if this was cleaned with some solvent, it would probably go right down to 223. So these are not undersized at any rate. Some people have reported getting lots of this ammo where the bullets were undersized. No such issue with any of the stuff that I have seen. So I have measured out and weighed 10 of the bullets and 10 of the powder charges, so we're going to look at the results of that next. So here's the results of weighing the powder charges from 10 of these cartridges, and I can tell you they're very, very uniform, which is not surprising for ball powder, because ball powder is quite easy to measure out. You can see most of them came out at 26.3, which we're also calling our high charge weight, and we got a 26.2 charge for a few of them, which we'll call our low. So this worked out to a very precise powder charge, 26.27 grains on average, with a standard deviation, like a very tiny standard deviation, and extreme spread of only 1/10 of 1 grain. So the powder charges, you couldn't really ask for any better than that, but that's easy to do, pretty easy to do with ball powder at any rate. It's a little harder to get that kind of accuracy with stick powders. But anyway, that's a good thing to see as far as consistency of powder charges. And the last data we'll look at here is the data for the bullets. So once again, we measured 10 of the projectiles pulled from these rounds, and these had the black tar or asphalt substance cleaned off them before they were weighed, so that didn't affect the weight of these results. So you can see we've got numbers that range from 54.6 grains for the lightest to 55.5 for the highest, for an average of 55.2 grains, standard deviation of 0.3 of a grain, and an extreme spread of 0.9 of a grain. So that's not terrible, it's not great, it's certainly not match grade, but for this kind of ammo at this price range, certainly sufficient enough. If we were able to eliminate that single one of 54.6, then the rest of them would be quite good, but there it is, which is why you weigh out 10 of these and not just 2 or 3. Anyway, I think that'll do it for this this benchtop review of this ammo, and we're going to try it out in a couple of different rifles to see how it performs, and that'll be a separate video. So thanks for watching, and as always, your comments and ratings are appreciated. Anyway, talk to you later.